The wind that night felt like it had teeth. It sliced through the city streets, rattling storefront windows and sending loose paper skittering across the pavement. People hurried by with collars turned up and heads lowered, desperate to reach heated cars and glowing apartments. No one lingered. Except the boy. He stood near the entrance of a tall glass building, his sneakers soaked through, his small hands red and trembling. In his arms, wrapped in a thin, faded blanket, was a baby girl. Her cries were weak, more like whimpers swallowed by the wind. "Sir," his voice barely carried. Inside the building, the annual charity gala for Hale Industries was in full swing. Crystal chandeliers glittered above polished marble floors. Laughter floated through the lobby each time the doors opened. Men in tuxedos and women in silk gowns stepped out briefly to take calls or wait for rides, their breath turning to mist. None of them stopped. The boy shifted the baby closer to his chest. "Sir, please. My baby sister is freezing." His voice cracked this time. The glass doors opened again, and a tall man stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks. Daniel Hale was used to the cold in a different way. He lived high above it in penthouses and boardrooms. He was used to numbers falling or rising, markets shifting, people watching him with admiration or envy. He wasn't used to this. The boy's words stopped him mid-step. Daniel looked down and saw wide brown eyes staring up at him. Not with accusation, not with entitlement, just desperation. "She's cold," the boy whispered, rocking slightly. "We've been outside since the shelter was full." Daniel blinked, the world around him muffled for a second. The music from inside felt distant. The city noise dulled. "How old is she?" Daniel asked quietly. 6 months, the boy replied. "Her name's Rosie." The baby's tiny fingers poked out from the blanket, purple at the tips. Daniel's chest tightened. Without thinking about the cost of the fabric or the stares from the valet, he shrugged off his heavy wool coat and knelt. The marble was freezing against his knee. He wrapped the coat around both children, tucking it close around Rosie's face. "There," he murmured. The boy's shoulders sagged slightly as warmth settled around them. "Thank you, sir. What's your name?" "Eli." "Where are your parents, Eli?" Eli hesitated. His jaw trembled, but he held himself together with a strength no child should have to learn. "Mom's in the hospital." "Dad?" "He ain't around no more." Daniel swallowed. He had once been a boy in a cramped apartment with a mother who worked double shifts. He remembered cold nights when the heater failed and she wrapped him in her own coat, pretending she wasn't shivering. He had spent years burying that memory under success. "Have you eaten?" Daniel asked. Eli shook his head. Daniel stood abruptly. "You're coming with me." Eli stiffened. "We don't steal. I promise." Daniel's throat tightened. "I know you're not in trouble." He guided them inside despite the startled looks from guests. Conversations faltered as the boy and baby crossed the gleaming lobby, wrapped in a coat that probably cost more than most monthly rents. "Mr. Hale?" one executive whispered urgently. Daniel ignored him. In a private dining room, he ordered hot soup, bread, warm milk. Eli watched the table as if it might disappear. He fed Rosie first, carefully, patiently, blowing on each spoonful. "You're a good big brother," Daniel said softly. Eli shrugged. "She cries less when I sing." Daniel felt something fracture inside him. After they ate, Daniel made a call to a contact who ran several family shelters. All were full. It was the coldest week of the year. Resources were stretched thin. "I won't leave them out there," Daniel said firmly before hanging up. He looked at Eli, who was fighting sleep but refusing to close his eyes. "You trust me?" Daniel asked. Eli studied him carefully as if weighing something deeper than the question itself. Finally, he nodded. Daniel drove them himself. His house felt cavernous that night. Too quiet. He hadn't noticed before. He set them up in the guest room, adjusting the thermostat higher than usual. He found an old rocking chair in storage and placed it beside the bed. Eli laid Rosie down gently, then stood awkwardly in the soft light. "You can sleep too," Daniel said. Eli hesitated. "You sure?" "Yes." Eli climbed onto the edge of the bed but didn't lie down. "Sir?" "Yes?" "Why you helping us?" Daniel paused in the doorway. He could have given the polished answer about corporate responsibility, about compassion, but the truth rose unfiltered. "Because once," he said quietly, "someone helped me, and I never forgot." That night, Daniel didn't sleep much. He sat in his study staring at the city skyline. He thought about the millions spent on the gala downstairs earlier. The speeches about community impact. The applause. And then he thought about a boy standing in the freezing wind asking for nothing but warmth. By morning, something had shifted. Daniel contacted his board. He diverted funds from an expansion project into emergency housing initiatives. He converted an unused office building into temporary apartments for families. He partnered directly with local shelters, increasing capacity before the next winter hit. The board resisted at first. Profits would dip. Then they dip, Daniel said calmly. We can recover money. We can't recover people. News spread. Some praised him. Some criticized him. Daniel didn't care. Weeks turned into months. Eli and Rosie stayed while their mother recovered. Social workers helped her transition into stable housing, funded by the new initiative. The day she came to take her children home, she held Daniel's hands with tears streaming down her face. I don't have words, she whispered. You don't need them, he replied. Eli hugged him tightly around the waist. I'm going to be like you one day, he said. Daniel knelt to meet his eyes. No, he said gently. Be better. Years later, on another bitterly cold evening, Daniel stood outside that same glass building. The wind still had teeth. Beside him stood a young man in a tailored suit, confident but humble. Eli. Across the street, a new shelter bore a simple sign with Rosie's name etched beneath it. Eli looked at Daniel and smiled. You remember that night? Daniel nodded. Every day. Eli glanced at the families entering the warm building, children laughing as volunteers handed out blankets. You didn't just give us your coat, Eli said softly. You gave us a future. Daniel felt the cold air on his face, but inside there was only warmth. He realized then that success had never been the towers he built or the wealth he accumulated. It was this. A choice made on a freezing night. A coat wrapped around two trembling children. Sometimes the smallest act of warmth can rewrite an entire destiny, and sometimes the person you save ends up saving you.